Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Got a very exciting episode today. We're joined by Rona Shoaienia, and Rona is currently the head of talent over at New.io, and I believe your team is currently headquartered in Toronto, right? Which is where you're based. Is that
It's
accurate? Is the team there or just you?
it's in the Bay Area, actually. That's
Oh,
where
it's just okay. It's the Bay Area.
yeah.
All right.
But we
So
have
you're
an office in Toronto as well.
oh, you do? Nice.
Yeah.
Where's the
Yeah.
headquarter initially? Is it Toronto or SF?
SF.
SF. Okay, so
San
how do you
Mateo, technically.
okay. How
Yeah.
did you guys land on Toronto then?
Our CEO is actually a Torontonian.
Well, there
And
you
so,
go. That's a good reason. Yeah.
yeah. So I think he probably decided that,
Yeah.
we have a lot of good talent here and decided to open an office.
I guess it's sort of the perks of being the boss, right? You can just be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to be. It's funny. It's like people ask me, so my company, one of my companies, Secure Vision, is based in Reston, Virginia. And it's like, well, why Reston? It's like, well, that's just like my family's here. You know,
Where I'm from.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, cool. Well, Rona, yeah, very, very much so looking forward to having you on the show today. I really enjoyed getting to know you on the prep call, and then again, it was good kind of catching up before we hit record, but looking forward to catching up some more. But yeah, let's just jump into it. Now, you grew up, I know you were born in Germany, but you grew up in Toronto, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
I moved to Toronto when I was 5, and I've lived here ever since.
Wow. So what part of Germany are you from?
Munich.
Munich. Do
Yeah.
you have any memories or was it were you too young?
Yeah, no, I actually do. I remember our house. I remember one of our neighbors who was this older lady, and she'd take me out, and she actually got my ears pierced with me without my parents knowing.
Are
She
you
got
serious?
haircuts. Yeah, she got haircuts for
Wow.
me. Like she'd just
Wow.
take me out and do stuff. I remember her very fondly. I remember our school or my school, and I even remember the smell of the school. So there's like bits and pieces that I mean, I was 5, right? So like I was still, I guess, like a child, and I spoke German fluently as well.
Do you still speak German?
So no, maybe like as much as a 5 or 6 year old. My friend and I actually, two of my friends, we went there maybe 10 years ago for a vacation. And it's crazy because like a lot of it actually came back to me.
That's awesome.
And so by like day 1, I was probably not that good, but then by day 7, like a lot of it came back because I don't use it, right? And so
Yeah.
my parents still use it at home. Like when I was growing up and they didn't want me to understand what they were
Mm.
saying, they would start talking in German. So like there's words that I even thought were Farsi because I'm Persian too. But they ended up being German. And so there's like 3 different languages in my brain still.
So do you speak Farsi at all?
Yes, that's that
Yeah.
that I'm fluent in, and I
Oh,
can read
nice.
and write as well.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah,
It's really impressive. Well, cool. So Toronto, you actually grew up in the city, right?
yeah.
What was that like?
Amazing. I mean, I still consider it a small town. Like I love big cities. I tended to get really bored of it as a child, but we lived on, I don't know if you've ever been here, but like on the main street, which is Yonge Street, and we lived on Yonge Street like 3 different times, which is like one of the busiest streets. But it's great. There were so many first generation immigrants, and every single school that I went to, like you had people from literally all over the world,
Yeah.
and they were also first generation. So a lot of them were newcomers as well. And so I grew up with like a lot of Persian people, like my own kind. I grew up with a lot of Koreans, a lot of Chinese people, a lot of Indian people. And so my whole friend group from childhood to now is like just mixed with a whole bunch of different races. But I think even though we're all from various different backgrounds, like one thing that you have in common with everyone is that you're all first generation immigrants. And so you kind of all go through the same thing of like trying to fit into the Canadian like Western system despite being from like the Eastern Hemisphere.
Yeah, it's I'm sure a pretty cool life experience, right? And it is
Yeah.
nice, nice to live in areas where there's people from a lot of different walks in lives and different cultural backgrounds. Like I'm from the
Yep.
DC area, and it's something that I don't think as a kid I appreciated as much as I do now, is just like how culturally diverse the area is. Like my friends growing up were like I had friends from all over the place that were first generation or maybe even born overseas, but like I had friends from Iran, Venezuela, different parts like throughout like Africa,
Yeah.
just all over the freaking place.
Yeah.
And it's just something that like again as a kid you don't necessarily like
Value it.
not necessarily, yeah.
Yeah.
But then as an adult it's a pretty cool city here because you can walk down the street, you're gonna hear five different languages.
Exactly. Yeah. It
And that
teaches you a lot about the world and different cultures and
I think so. Yeah, I think it's really if someone's lucky enough to be able to experience different cultures, it could be a really impactful part of someone's development, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you were an only child, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was
One
that?
was enough.
What was that? I'm just curious, what was that like from your perspective? Uh,
As a child, I hated it. Like,
really?
yeah, because it was just really boring and like everyone else had siblings and I was probably the only person I knew that didn't. I'd even like when I was really young, I'd make up like that I had a sister who was 18.
You made it up.
Yeah, like I would just
Nice.
make up an imaginary siblings or like pretend I had siblings just because it's kind of lonely when you're a child, I would say, especially when like everyone else has siblings and stuff. Now as an adult, I love it. I'm so happy I'm an only child, but I think like growing up, it is a bit tricky,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have like a ton of family otherwise,
Yeah.
like, in the same region that you grow up in. Which is probably why like I was always really social and I had a lot of friends because I didn't have anyone at home to play with.
Yeah, I hear you. Also gives you like I think sometimes only children are they can be like more introspective in a sense.
Yeah.
Like because there's like more a lot more thinking
Oh yeah,
time, right?
definitely. A thinker, always self-aware, like from as long as I can remember. I just like always analyzed my own behavior. I was always thinking. I was always, yeah.
Right. I'm sure positives and drawbacks, I'm sure, right? You're thinking about it. I'll speak from my own experiences. Like I had a kind of a, like I was a single child on my mom's side, and then but on
Okay.
my dad's side I had like several siblings. We just weren't that close though. So I had this like weird kind of but yeah, I
Mhm.
kind of know that single child kind of experience too. But yeah, you said you were really social. You also said you're like a big reader, right? What kind of books were you into? What'd you read as a kid?
Goosebumps. That was my
Goosebumps.
favorite genre. Like I remember one
Solid.
summer I read every single there was like 25 of them and I literally would like rent it. Do you remember the library cards like back in
Yeah,
the
of course. Yeah,
90s
yeah.
or the early 2000s?
Yeah.
I would rent them out and I would read everything, like every type of book. I loved books so much. Like
Yeah.
I learned recently very recently, a lot of people, when they read, they can't picture stuff. Like they don't
Really.
have the ability to imagine anything. They have like it's like a special capability in your brain. And I didn't know that until very recently. Not everyone has the ability to do that.
To visualize?
Hmm.
No way.
Yeah, I
Like
didn't know
what?
that either.
A lot of people or like some like how
I think it's quite a lot, actually. They have
really?
no ability. Yeah, I know. I was really shocked. Like, if you ask someone to close their eyes and imagine something, not everyone has the ability to do that. I didn't realize that because it's just like, to me, it was so important. And that's where my reading came. I would literally create movies in my mind,
Oh yeah.
which is why I love to read so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. That actually reminds me of the whole movie on my mind thing. Do you listen to audiobooks at all?
No, I like
Okay.
to read. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do too. But like so the audiobooks now they have like some it's kind of funny. They do like these dramatized versions now where it's like they'll actually have a
Oh,
cast and like actors and their whole tagline is like a movie in your mind or something.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting.
So there's like a
Hmm.
bunch of like background noises and stuff. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. Just got when you said that, it made me think of that.
Yeah.
Um, oh, cool. And then you were also into swimming, is that right? Was that like
Yes.
competitively or just like for fun or I know you said you were
Yeah,
doing a lot.
it wasn't competitive. We always like we moved around a lot, but like we usually lived in apartments because it was just the three of us. Aside from like a few years when we did move into a house, there was always a pool, like a public pool for that building. And so I spent all my summers from probably like the first grade to the fifth grade swimming every single day. And so my mom also put me in swimming lessons, and I
Mm.
think I finished all my lessons like before I was 8 or 9. And then when I got into university, I actually took the lifeguard exam. And so I did that and I did lifeguarding while I was in school. And then I also taught swimming, which I hated. I hated teaching kids because but
Yeah. It
I
takes
love,
a lot of
yeah,
patience. God
it's a
bless those people,
lot.
right?
And it's
Yeah.
kind of scary because they kind of go off on their own and they don't listen and it's very dangerous. So like I didn't
Yeah,
like
I
them.
don't know if I'd want to be responsible for other people's children's like in a pool.
No. And even like when I was lifeguarding, I had kids go under and it gave me a lot of trauma. I had to save two, I remember.
Seriously?
Yeah, because like, you know those donuts? Like they would
Yeah.
go in the donuts and then they'd fall through. Um,
God.
I
Like,
know.
what do you mean by
Yeah.
save? Like CPR?
Not CPR, like catch it right away.
Oh, you'd have to
They'd
jump in
go
there and
under
stuff.
and then you knew that they were
Yeah,
not going to come back
no,
up. So you'd have
I
to
don't
jump
need all
in.
that. I don't need all
Yeah.
that pressure in my
No,
life.
it's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
I always like I'm worried like I don't like being like with my daughter's like friends if I'm just the
Right.
only adult because I'm like I don't need this kid like falling
No,
and then it's like
I know.
you don't ever want to like return a child to their parent in
I
like a worse
know.
condition than like when they dropped them off.
When
You
you
know,
got
I'm
them.
like
Yeah.
yeah. So like that
Yeah,
was
it's a
giving me so
lot.
much
It's a
anxiety.
lot
I'm
of
like, oh
pressure,
man.
and they don't like it. They're very scared of water, and so like they're just not having a good time. So I hated it, but I mean, anyway, I loved swimming. Like that
That's
was
funny.
I still like to this day. I love water. I love the ocean. I love the like everything. Like water is like my safe place. I love
Yeah.
water. Yeah,
You live in kind of a cold area though.
I
So
know. I don't see it that often.
oh man. So in high school, it sounded like you did you leave you said you left home to study psychology. Was it in like 12th grade or was that for university or you
Yeah,
pretty early on decided that you were pretty like passionate about that, right? Or wanted to
yeah.
pursue it?
Yeah, like in high school, I never knew what I wanted to do or what I wanted to study. I didn't do well in school either my whole life. Like I was always very smart, and teachers would say like she's very smart, but I wouldn't do well in school academically. I
Yeah.
think maybe I just wasn't interested or I wasn't interested in the subjects or I don't know what it was, but I never really did well in school until I got to the 12th grade and I realized like, okay, I really got to get it together because I don't really have much of a choice at this point. And so became very studious, like overnight, basically.
Hmm.
And I took a psychology class and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I read a book. I can't remember the name now, but it was about a kid who went to a psych ward. They made a movie about it actually. He went to a psych ward and so he like lived in the psych ward and the whole book was on his perspective. And
Hmm.
I fell in love with psychology and psychiatry. And so I knew I definitely wanted to study psychology. I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career, but I knew like I at least wanted to go and study that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I decided to go that route.
Yeah, and it sounds like you became pretty ambitious in terms of like becoming a high achiever around that same time, right? Do you feel like it was an environment-based thing where you were placed in a new environment and it just sort of kicked in where you're like, or was it before you moved?
I think I was always a high achiever. Like I
Hmm.
realize this as an adult now. As someone in their 30s, I realized I was a perfectionist since I was a child, but I never realized it because when you think of perfectionism, you think of like people who care about details of like where the knife and the fork goes and like where you put the plate. Those types of details I couldn't care less about, and I still don't care about,
Well, maybe
honestly.
that was the issue with some classes in school
It's
because you're just like,
yeah,
why am I?
I
Yeah,
just didn't care. Like
yeah.
I think my perfectionism came from being seen as somebody who was like a highly intellectual person or somebody who could achieve a lot or somebody who could tolerate a lot or someone just who's strong versus like a perfectionist in a very different way, if that makes sense. And
Mm.
I think I always thought of perfectionism and type A as the thing I mentioned earlier with like the little details and like how often you spend doing your hair and makeup and stuff like that. Like those things I never really cared about, but it was always in like the strength and the intelligence and the knowledge, like and doing well and being known as not necessarily number one, but someone like who, is successful in anything that they do. And so that was always with me, but I think I really always valued financial success and my parents were not like that. My parents are very humble. They're very like they're not materialistic. They're not like super money oriented people. And it's weird how I became like that because my parents weren't, but I think I always just like it was always important to me to be financially successful, not because of the materialism, but I think like growing up, I didn't like to hear no. So if someone said no to me, like I would find some other way to get what I wanted. And so I kind of associate like financial health to that. Like I just want to be able to do exactly what I want to do and not have anyone get in my way. And so I think if you have the financial success, you have that, right? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where it comes from. Like I can't hear no.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. So then when you graduated from university, sounds like you did a lot of traveling. What were the few places that you went?
Yeah. So I went to a lot of like US states with
Yeah.
friends, like Miami, New York. We went to New York a lot. Um, Europe, a lot of different European trips, like summer trips. It was just so much fun, like so much carefree fun.
Okay. Well, so in the States, what's your favorite place in the United States? Curious.
You know what? I would, if you asked me this like 6 months ago, I would have said New York City, but I'm gonna say Miami now.
It's just
I
because we
changed
had
my
such a
mind.
terrible winter, right? That's why.
Probably. No, honestly, you know
Yeah.
what? Like, because when we would go to Miami, we would stay at South Beach, which was just like dirty and, like too much party. But
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
go like in your 30s, you don't stay there, right? You stay in like a better
Yeah.
area with
So you start to like migrate
professionals.
to like Brickell or like,
That's where I was.
yeah,
Exactly. I was
exactly.
in Brickell.
That's where like all
That's
the like
exactly where it was.
millennials go. We're just like, all right, enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had not seen
Yeah.
it before because I would always be in like the party
Right.
areas.
Yeah.
But this time I stayed in Brickell and it was just like everybody values fitness, health. Everyone's like going for a walk, everyone's walking their dogs. Like it's just young professionals who just, you could like feel the epitome of health everywhere. And it really like values like my lifestyle or it aligns with my lifestyle. And
Hmm.
so not that New York doesn't, like there's so much greatness about New York and I love it and it's so much closer, but I really, really loved Miami this time because I just think I saw it in a different light and I think it would be an amazing place to live permanently.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, between the two, I'm probably still gonna pick
New
New
York?
York.
Yeah.
But again, like just this winter has been so nasty on the East Coast in the US. Like I'm
Yeah.
just so over it. I'm
Over
so
it.
so over it.
Yeah.
Like I just want to go south. But
Yeah.
yeah, I went the wrong direction. It was like February. I went to New York. I had a New York trip, and I'm like, why am I?
Uh,
Why have I
why?
planned? Like I'm like I should be going. Kind of like I was thinking, sort of what you were saying with your founder. I'm like, man, I should just start like targeting customers in like Miami and like Santa Monica and San Diego.
Yes.
Like let's just run sales campaigns in those markets, so I have like more of a reason to go there. You know?
Yes, you should. Honestly, it just lightens your mood so much and it's so
Oh, it's so
different.
much
Like
better. Yeah.
we don't see palm trees, we see pine trees and like it's just the agriculture is like everything's just different, And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. Like you see water everywhere you go. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, my mood is definitely improved. Yesterday was super nice out and today it's gonna be like 70 degrees Fahrenheit here. And it's just like I'm just happier. It's just like, oh man,
Yeah,
this is so nice.
it
Like
makes such a difference.
it
I
really
know.
does. Yeah, yeah. Do you ever ask your parents, you're like, why did we
All the time.
move to the
All the
cold?
time.
Why are we?
All the time. Do you see
Yeah.
those memes that are like you had the choice between like Palm Tree Beach, but you chose like, and it's like a video of Montreal in a snowstorm?
Yeah, Canada is an absolutely beautiful country for sure.
It
But
is.
yeah,
It
it's
is. We're
cold.
lucky to live here. The
Yeah, of
the
course. Yeah.
downside of it is the weather, but
Yeah.
otherwise.
So, what about internationally? Where's your favorite place that you've traveled to?
Hmm. Definitely Tehran, where I'm from. Uh
Really?
yeah, it's
It's
like
a beautiful, it's like a
so
mountain city, right? Like I don't think a lot of people realize the mountain
yeah.
backdrop, right?
You get mountain, you get like metropolitan city. It's huge. It's like as big as New York. The traffic is awful because it's very overpopulated, but it's just like that was one of my favorite trips every time I go. Like it is just like the best best time ever. It's like very heartfelt.
Yeah.
Um, I also really love Mexico City.
Hmm.
It's a great, great city. I absolutely loved it. Like, because it's kind of like also like a New York, but it has a lot of like European feel and Asian feel as well. So that's probably one of my second favorite cities.
Well, yeah, that's really cool. So when's the last time you were in Tehran?
Mm, 10 years ago,
10 years?
maybe 10, 15
Wow.
years. Yeah, quite a while.
What's the culturally, what's it like in the capital city there? I'm just curious, like
Um,
what the like experience was
yeah.
going there and
So it's different. It depends like what part of the city you're in. Because there's like in the north of the city, it's like recently, well, not recently, let's say like maybe 2, 3 years ago, up until recent
yeah.
events.
Yeah.
It's become very lax. So like girls are out in crop tops and not showing any like they're showing their hair and everything. But then there are some areas in the city where naturally they are really religious, right? And so you might see like black from head to toe. Like where my dad's family is from, it is much more conservative, like not by force, but just how people are there. And so, like, if I were to go visit his side of town, like, I would just be a little bit more conservative in how I would dress versus, like, my mom's side of the family is in a very, like, modern, liberal, chill side of, like, it's more kind of like advanced financially too. And so
Hmm.
they're a lot more liberal and flex. So I think it just depends on where you are.
Even
But
within
in
the
general,
city.
yeah, even within the city, it's kind of like,
Wow.
think about it like New York. Like, Brooklyn's different from, like, Upper
Yeah, I
East
guess
Side.
so. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So like no matter where you go, like it's like different vibes, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've always Mexico City just sounds like a really cool place too. I've actually this is just seems like a random gap. I don't know how this has happened, but I've actually never been to Mexico.
Really, you
I've done
should
a lot of
go.
traveling. I don't
Oh,
know how this has happened, but
it's one of my favorite countries. It has the best food you'll ever eat anywhere from anywhere.
really,
Best food. I've Barbados and Mexico were the best places for cuisine in my opinion. And I've been to like many different countries.
wow. Well,
Yeah. It's
that's
just gorgeous.
exciting.
And
Yeah,
it's very
I really want to go.
advanced, actually. Like it looks like you're in a like US or Canadian city.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom lived there for 2 years.
Oh,
It was like, a while ago. Like, but
wow.
she really loved it. Even back then, this was like I don't know how long ago she wouldn't tell me,
Yeah.
but it was a minute ago. Probably when she was in her 20s. So
Nice. Yeah, you should go.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Just to kind of pivot a little bit, like one thing that you kind of shared with me as you kind of entered your upper 20s is and this kind of ties into kind of the personal and probably even like professional growth in terms of like how you approach your life and career at this point. But you mentioned to me that you struggle with anxiety a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's like maybe something we could touch on just like for because it's I think it's somewhat common, right, for folks to struggle with these types of things. And I'm just kind of curious to learn more about your story and then maybe
Yeah.
like how you've like worked on overcoming that or learning how to navigate it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Um, it's interesting because I never thought I had anxiety even as a child. I never really had anxious thoughts. I never, at least like from what I knew. One day it was right when I think I was 29 still, and COVID hit. And I was sitting at home. This was like maybe 3 weeks into lockdown. And all of a sudden I started feeling like I was shaking, my heart was pounding really, really heavy. I was getting really dizzy. I thought I was gonna faint and pass out. And I was getting these like weird, like zappy, like electrocution feelings.
Jeez.
And it was going on for like 6, 7 hours in the night. And I was like, oh my God, I have COVID. I'm gonna die. Like I thought I had COVID. I didn't know what it was because it was like 100% physical. And this was a time where like you're getting all this like news about these things. And so that I thought
Mm,
I had some like physical disease. And I called my doctor the next day because we weren't even allowed to go into the doctor's office those days. Like
yeah.
everything was fully remote. And he was like, it's anxiety. And I was like, what? I'm dying. I have cancer and 12 other diseases, including COVID. This is not anxiety. And he was like, I did blood work, like just like a routine or whatever, maybe like 2 or 3 months before. He's like, I'm looking at your blood. It's a 10 out of 10. It's anxiety. And I'm like, no, it's not. And so this feeling, and including that, I had like nausea and dizziness and flu-like symptoms every day for 2 months, and it wreaked havoc on me. I mean, I can't even explain like the horrific feeling I had, and I felt like no one's helping me. My doctor keeps saying nothing's wrong with me. And so I'd go online, and like every time I would go online, I would see these like COVID-19 warning signs and all of the stuff, and it was just like, and I lived alone at the time too. Well, I still live alone, but I was alone, and my parents were like, just come stay with us. Like you shouldn't be alone right now, and but I was scared that I had COVID and I was gonna give it to them. So like I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't see anyone, and I was going through this completely isolated, like by myself. And every day was a literal walking nightmare. Like I have never felt so sick in my life. And like, when you get the flu, it goes away after 4 or 5 days. Like this was just like 2 months of constant like and I remember I woke up with a severe panic attack and I thought I was dying from a heart attack. And so I called the ambulance even to come. And they were like, it's anxiety. And I was like, I just had a heart attack. What do you mean it's anxiety? And so, like, it took maybe finally after 3 months, my doctor agreed to see me. We did full blood. And my dad's diabetic and he has like thyroid issues and all these things. And my dad and I would go to the doctor together, and the doctor would call him to give results, but he'd never call me because there's nothing to say. And I'd start crying, being like, why is he calling you? But he's not calling me. And my dad was like, you're seriously the only person I know that's upset that there's nothing wrong with them. And I went through this for maybe 3 or 4 months, and I was like, okay, if nobody is gonna help me, I'm just gonna like self-diagnose myself. So I bought a MCAT pathology book, and I'm like, I'm gonna read every chapter of this book and find out what's wrong with me. And still, like nothing would come up. I couldn't find an
Well, it's
answer.
I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize if you're like struggling with anxiety or different issues like that, it's like it's actually I don't think it's uncommon for people to wish like I just want there to like
Be an
physically like
answer.
for
Hmm.
something to be wrong because
Yes,
if it's sometimes like those issues it could if there's a pill to take that's easier like you sort of
exactly.
you hope that it's like okay there's a treatment that I could take for like a week and
Yep.
then when those tests come back negative like there's actually this feeling of like you're upset
Grief.
because you're like
Yep.
well now I like okay so what now right like what do I have to and it's something that I don't know I don't think people necessarily like some
Yeah,
people just haven't experienced that right it's like from outside in it's a little counterintuitive
exactly.
um
I
so
know, and it
yeah
sucks. And like, finally, I think I came to terms with the fact that it was anxiety because like I couldn't find an answer for it. So,
yeah
and then that spiraled into actual anxiety because you get it. Mine always started with physical, and I'd get a symptom, and then I would ruminate on it of like, what is this? Like, am I dying? Like, am I gonna have a heart attack? Why am I so dizzy? Why am I so nauseous? And then it's like a cycle because then your
it gets
mind
worse.
it gets worse.
It gets
Yeah.
worse. It gets
Hmm.
worse. It's like it deepens and it's like it's a it can be it can feel like a trap. I
Yeah.
think so based on where you are today, how have like what have you learned about navigating that? Like because
Yeah.
now there's been from when it started at least there's a lot of time and I don't know how long
Yeah.
it was that
Yeah.
bad for, but like how have you navigated that?
Yeah. So this unfortunately happened to me 2 times in the last 6 years, and the first reason I still don't know. I think it was a accumulation of everything in my life, and I'm very strong from a mind perspective. And so a lot of it, I think, just got stored in my body, and then it just unleashed on me physically because I probably just never dealt with a lot of like the trauma that I had from childhood and my whole life in 30 years, right? And then it kind of just like attacks you. Um, I learned a lot from that. Like after that experience, I became such a more empathetic person. I used to never be really empathetic. Like I understood human feelings and emotions really well, but I was very of the mindset of like, no negotiations, like work hard, no excuse, like I wasn't very lenient with people. And I think when I went through that, I just became such a different person. I just became so much softer And if someone tells me they're scared of like doing the laundry, I would be like, that's okay. I understand, you know? Whereas before I'd be like, that's ridiculous. Like
I
just
think
get
there's
your
like
shit
there's
together.
like this is sort of something like my girlfriend and I are actually talking about lately. It's like sometimes like traumatic stuff is like the stuff that teaches you how to be a better
Human.
person. Like you kind of need
Yeah,
like not to say that we need it, but
you kind of do.
you kind of do. And I'm like trying to like I'm like for people tuning in, I don't want to come across as like
No,
I don't
I
know, the
know.
wrong way or like so
No,
somebody
I
to
understand.
misinterpret it. But
Yeah.
it's like you want like the right amount of it. You don't want too much because that's
Yeah.
like but you
That's
need some. You
over.
need like the right
Yeah,
like amount of trauma in life to like to
for
level
sure.
out, you know.
Yeah. It does
But
teach you
yeah.
a lot, right? It teaches you perspective and it changes you as a person. There's no
Yeah.
way it doesn't. And so, I did struggle with it still for years. With mainly physical, like I became like more hypochondriac. Like I just and it all stemmed down from like I just don't like to lose control. It's a control thing. If I'm not in control of my body, then I don't have control and then I spiral. And so the illnesses and like that's kind of like where my anxiety went. And then unfortunately last year I was doing my own business and I was working fractionally for a few companies and I was working for three at once and
Mm.
unfortunately like I just put so much pressure and stress on myself that those physical symptoms came back. And thankfully, this time it only lasted maybe 1 or 2 months, but like, and I would push through. Like, I'd be in meetings literally on the verge of death. Nobody knows it. Like, even if I were to tell anybody that I worked with last year, they would have absolutely no idea because I hide it so well. But I realized like the second time that this happened to me, I put my nervous system in such a crisis and I kind of did it to myself and that lesson was like I will always respect myself and put myself first and not let anything ever put my nervous system in that situation again. And like I think that just taught me the ultimate like self-respect that I probably didn't have before,
Hmm.
whether it's with relationships or work or whatever the situation may be. Like now I come first and everything else is secondary.
So I have a question, like just, and I don't know if there's like a really, I don't know if anybody really knows this, frankly, but like when did you learn any like tricks or is there like a way if like anxieties there's like a physical manifestation where it's like hard to break a pattern where it's
Hmm.
like showing up and then it's like you're anxious about that and then it gets like did you find any kind of
Yeah.
ways to like break the pattern?
Yeah.
It's-
It's hard to do. Like I know what to do. Sometimes I don't do it. But there's two things you can do. One is to sit with it and say, okay, I know this is happening. I'm not in danger. I'm just uncomfortable. And then your brain kind of switches to like, okay, this is just discomfort. It's not danger. So that's one thing. And they do say like, do not focus on the symptom because you just make it worse. If you ruminate on it, and it makes the symptom worse too. So if you just kind of like try and ignore it, that is also a way to help. Now, with somebody who struggles with anxiety, it's like there's a part of you, and a lot of CEOs also have these traits where they want to focus on it because if they don't focus on it, it means they lose control of the situation. And then you almost feel guilty of like, oh, if I didn't pay attention to this, this wouldn't have happened to me. And so you almost want to fixate on it because you want to control it as well, if that makes sense. So it's actually really hard to ignore it because even though deep down you probably know it's anxiety, there's like a part of you that's just like, if I don't fixate on this and I actually do have a heart attack, it's going to be my fault if I die right now
right, and
versus
then you
like,
start to question like oh it's an issue with like you got to look out for yourself sometimes they get it wrong like that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so but you have to know to just, even if you are actually, God forbid, dying, you still can't do anything about it. So you might as well just not think about it.
Yeah, it's honestly
Whatever
like
happens is
it
gonna
probably
happen.
yeah. Take the stress will probably let your body heal anyways. Like
Exactly.
yeah, well yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think too, it's like being in tech in like a really fast paced environment and it's like super competitive and it's only getting more competitive and it's only getting like more challenging and in a way exciting because it's like
Yeah.
for high achievers like it can be fun but it's also like it's a lot, right? And I think it's
Yeah.
just, and then just everything that comes with like getting a little bit older and different responsibilities and stressors that come throughout life, right?
Yeah.
Um, so thank you. I appreciate.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of people go through this, maybe not in the same ways, and everyone's triggers are different, but the end result is the same. And I think it's like everybody just really needs to put themselves first and, not let external things um like change their minds about themselves.
Yeah, agreed. Fast forwarding to today, head of talent, new.io, 2026. Sounds like your team is growing pretty aggressively. Just like quick overview, like what stage are you if you are investment backed and headcount growth goals, like just kind of lay of the land on
Yeah.
where you're at.
Yeah, so we raised Series A last year, and we're probably now, I mean, this number changes every day. I think around 140 people globally. And we have something like 65 open requisitions globally as well. So we have, in addition to North America, two other offices, one in Bogota, and we're going to open one in India as well. So there's a lot of hyper growth in pretty much every area of the business right now.
Wow. So that's fair amount of volume, right? And
Yeah.
one of the things we talked about like before we actually hit record was like balancing that volume and the speed with quality. It sounds like that's sort of where your head's at. Like, how do you think about tackling that this year?
Yeah. I think you have to put recruiters in place who really understand quality from a business perspective, from a technical perspective, from a soft skills perspective, but who can also maintain the speed of which they move, and really know how to target those people as well.
Mm.
But I think, I have, unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, but my whole team is a team of seniors. I'd love to bring in juniors, at some point, but I think you do need to start off with senior level folks who really kind of understand the industry really well and the
Yeah.
profiles really well to build that foundation. And so, the volume is one problem, but volume without quality is almost useless, in my opinion. And even though we
Yeah.
have, targets, it's more important that these hires can make an impact in the business.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging, like to move really fast and keep the bar really high.
Yeah.
When you think about implementing that this year, I mean, like I do agree. I think senior recruiters, particularly for this stage of scale
Yeah.
ups, is like it's critical because you need people to who really understand the business and ideally have like a level of business and strategic acumen as well, to
Yeah.
see like forest through the trees or like really understand top line kind of business objectives and how that feeds into a talent strategy.
Hmm.
I agree. Like so for one of my companies that's in embedded recruiting an RPO firm for the tech industry, and we only hire senior recruiters to go to customer accounts, and like the vast majority of my final round interview is really much more so focused around behavior
Yep.
and business and strategic acumen. So
Yep.
we require they need to have startup scale up experience. They need to,
Yep.
you know, to have that. But really, it's like okay, like how aware are you of like your own behaviors and like the business needs? And
Yep.
so my questions are, I also intentionally ask questions that I know they haven't heard before.
Right.
It's like, but because I want them to think, not just
Yep.
interview well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's I think that like those are the things that really make a great recruiter. It's like they have to have the experience, but they have to be the right behavioral fit.
Exactly.
Like,
I think you need to understand the business. You need to understand that hiring managers org to the point where, like, I'll give you one example. I mean, we're a tech company, so obviously there was, weeks of where you might have more escalations than others. And when you hear that in the business, it kind of makes me think like, okay, then, when we run into these situations, we need to make sure that, our support hires and our TAM hires are, really advanced in being able to solve these types of problems. And so like when I'm hiring myself, I think about it from even the customer's point of view. And so I think, the recruiter doesn't need to go that far, but I think you do need to understand the leader's org and their business and the challenges that they deal with on a day to day to be able to find people to help solve for that. And I really think a recruiter is like an advisor and a business partner. They're not just throwing paper at you, but they're really helping you try to solve the immediate problems that your org is facing.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So what else? So like in terms of quality recruiters, business strategic acumen, somebody that knows their stuff but also can execute with a certain level of speed, which also I think touches on like the behavioral piece in terms of like how they think about speed and like being proactive and because I know you said like being proactive is another big thing,
Yeah.
right? Like being an advisor, being proactive. So we have those elements. When you think about like process or technology, are there any
Oh yeah,
like big areas for like high impact areas that talent leaders should be thinking about in
for
2026?
sure. I think your internal process is the probably one of the most, if not most important thing when it comes to high growth recruiting. Because I always say like you have two problems in recruiting. You have internal problems and you have external problems.
Yeah.
You're always going to have external problems, right? You're always going to have to like find talent. You're always going to have to know where to source from. You're always going to have situations where people, don't accept your offer. These things are, you can only do so much there. What you can control is what happens internally. And I think you need to have a well-oiled machine from a process perspective. Like one example could be not have, 10 different interview stages. If you're going to have 10, like what's the point of them and what are they each going to actually tackle? And like what's the alignment? And like, just really making sure your internal processes are efficient from feedback to scorecard to interviews to who's going to manage what and tackle what. Like one example is for engineering, we set up sprints. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have 15-minute sprint catch up. Like, this is the pipeline. This is what we need to do. This is what I need from you. This is what you need from me. And just like, there's not a lot of dialogue, I think, with recruiting and leaders sometimes. So that's one important thing. And then from a system perspective, like we use GEM, which is our ATS. It's great. The data part of it and the reporting is like top tier. I've never used such a good like data reporting tool before.
That's awesome.
Um, but like also like new is very high on AI in the sense of like everyone needs to use AI for literally everything and automate all the things. Like do not be doing things manually for the sake of it. You should always find ways to automate. So, using GPT and like other tools to just like make everyone more efficient and not work on things manually if you don't have to. Like even job descriptions, I think all of our job descriptions are via courtesy of Mr. GPT.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Well, yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, what are your thoughts too on like for like screening interviews? Are you like leveraging AI for that for like
No.
inbounds? That's John play.
This is one area where
Hmm.
you can never convince me to replace it with an AI because I think this is the most important value you're ever going to get from a recruiting team is the screening part. I truly believe that. I mean, I know some people may not, but I just don't think there's a point in having a recruiter if you're just going to replace that with AI. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of AI to be used in the recruiting process, like there's so much admin that we do, like from scheduling to like even communicating and all of that can be done with AI, but I think the screening part is something that I would never ever ever replace.
You what about like tools like that are kind of like AI co-pilots? Do
To
you
screen the CVs.
or no, to be part of like Zoom interviews? I can kind of take notes and then update the
Yes.
ATS. Do
Yeah.
you
We use all of that. Yeah. So we
okay.
we we even record our interviews now because you've probably heard of all the like fraudulent things happening
Yeah,
in
for
the
sure.
SaaS industry. So now we record interviews and then like so we use Fellow for that. We use Note Taker as well. So we yeah, even intake meetings we use Note Taker and then like we'll send out the Note Taker to
Yeah.
so that we're aligned
No,
on
it's just
everything.
such an easy thing to
Yeah.
do that makes
So
such a big
easy.
difference,
Yeah.
particularly when you're speaking
Scheduling,
with so many
I
people.
wish like someone would come up with an AI scheduling tool where like the recruiter just didn't have to do anything. Like you press one button and the scheduler just talks to the hiring manager or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about the future as well, and get a sense for from a TA perspective, or like professionally. I mean, in general, like how do you see yourself progressing? Like, what's like your big obsession or focus over the next several years?
Yeah. I really want to get talent acquisition to like a really, really, really good place where it's a well-oiled machine and, we're just kind of, we know what to do and there's no problems in an ideal scenario. And then I'd love to take on like other departments at some point in my life. I mean, in the far future, like I would love to lead like a BDR team or something because I just think it's like very similar to recruiting. Or I'd love to go somewhere in the organization where they're facing like a lot of problems and look at things from a process perspective. I'm very good at processes. Like I can take a look at something and break it and build it back up. I mean, I've only been at New for 4 months, and that's really what I spent a lot of time doing was, meeting with all the executives and building out processes. So that's also something like I would love to do at some point as well, is going, outside of talent acquisition to be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. It's well, it sounds like you're like just very interested in like problem solving in general, like looking
I
at
love
anything that's
problem
like
solving.
not
Yeah.
effective or
Yeah.
efficient and like fixing it and making it better.
Yes.
Um, well,
I love
that's awesome.
that.
Because like one thing that you mentioned to me though is like you seem very clear on like you're living life by your core values. And you mentioned like four to you that you're really going to be focused on in your future. Could you kind of, and I wrote them down here, and so I have them here, but I was hoping you could tell us more
Sure.
about them. I mean, like the one of the first ones you mentioned is like financial health, and
Hmm.
there's a few others, but could you just walk us through like these core values and why like they stand out to you as the most important things as you think about your future?
Yeah. I think we also talked before, like, I truly believe that if you want to be not happy, because happy is an emotion that comes and goes, but like content with your life, your behaviors do have to fall aligned with your values. And I think oftentimes when people are really unhappy, it's because what they're doing is not aligned to their values. And so I go by four that, I have categories for each of the four, but financial health is one that you mentioned. Physical health is super important to me. Spiritual health is very important, like, relationships and learning and self-growth, meditation, and just, you know, being like with your inner peace is very important. And then obviously the fourth is mental health. And a lot of mental health falls into spiritual health, but I think mental health is really just like managing your day-to-day stress. Um, and just, striving for peace always and trying to do things throughout your day that, can give you happiness essentially.
Yeah, and one of the things you told me before we recorded was like that peace is the most important thing above everything else. So maybe you could tell us more about what you mean by that.
Yeah. I think being at peace means you are happy with yourself and you are not portraying something to the world that is not how you feel inherently. And that's like being really honest with yourself and you're being at peace from that perspective. And I think it's also like how you show up with other people. You're not people pleasing constantly 24 hours a day. You're putting yourself first. And so I think, that's one thing, but I also believe it's like you're incorporating fun into your life. Your life is not just about like responsibility all the time because that's not going to bring you peace.
No.
And so I think you need to be at peace with yourself, but also with your life. And you have to, we always do things we don't want to do, but you have to then, like, if you're going to do something you don't want to do, you have to then give yourself something nice that you want to do and like learn how to balance it. And like, I think it's all about balance. Like, you can't be one extreme one way and one extreme the other because you're just not going to be at peace. And so I really think like you need to, again, be happy with yourself, be happy with the life you've built. And if you're not, come up with ways of like, how can you make the changes so that you have that peace? Because when you don't have peace, I mean, I think the opposite of peace is stress. And when you don't have stress, like it comes with disease, it comes with bad sleep, it comes with just being miserable all the time.
Yeah,
But I think if you have peace, you have like, you're rich, like you have everything at that point.
I agree. I agree. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's also like you talk a lot about like one thing you didn't touch on yet was like relationships too. And I think you called it like a social system or a social circle but how do you think about that and like that impact, like in terms of how that
Yeah.
impacts your health and well-being and why is that so important to you as well?
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriends that I'm friends with, I've been friends with since I was 10 years old. So, we're like I have really, really good social system in friendship and family. My mom and dad are like we're best friends. We talk all the time. We talk about everything. I spend like once a week with them at least. And so I have a lot of really, really good people around me. And I think that, when I mentioned like fun, like that's where my fun comes when I get to spend time with the people that I love and care about. And that's super important.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Well, Rona, look, this has been a really insightful conversation. I've had a lot of fun speaking with you
Me
today.
too.
Um, I just want to say thank you for coming on the
Thank
show.
you. Yeah.
And for
Thanks.
everybody tuning in, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.